Hi, Colette. Um, I've actually got my books and my pictures and all kinds of stuff that lies around in my studio, which I like to call atelier anyway. That's all kind of lingering behind me. I think it makes a good backdrop. But it's a lot of stuff that I haven't gone through, but somehow actually this, I don't know, we call it in German, I'm in Vienna by the way, we call it a wallpaper table. I don't know whether you can see, that's why it's so long and stretched. And that's kind of my favorite. This table has been with me, and I have several, and you don't get them so easily actually made out of wood. That they're in three parts. I mean, they're not in three parts. There's one long stretch. I've had them with me for like 10 years, also in my flat, and they're kind of my favorite way of displaying things. And that I realized, to show you, that I made an installation 2 years ago in a museum in Vienna, and I made one which I called the work table. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And I put different images on it, which I don't know how you call this. I put it on, you know, you put them on aluminium plates or whatever, and you make kind of objects out of them. But so in a way, like the atelier stands for, with me at the moment, for physical work, but also for working with imagery, working with writing. It's also a place where I do my thinking and my try to write down stuff and create the concepts. But you sent me this question. What is your relationship to your working space? And what possibilities and limitations does it afford? And you have your own working space, right?
Yes, I mean, I'm in Berlin. I'm originally from Glasgow, but I'm now living in Berlin, in Germany. I have my atelier space on the Ufer Studios site, so round the corner from where I'm living and where I currently am in Wedding. So rather than showing you the inside of my studio, I'm showing you the inside of my living room. I will just pan slowly to show you basically the windows, the kind of Berliner Altbau, as it's called. So this standard Berliner Altbau flat that I live in Wedding. And one of the things I actually wanted to talk about in relation to the atelier was also similarly that for me the atelier space is not only this idea of a personal space where I can, you know, think and write and research, but it's also a kind of a time machine, which I think might also be something relevant for you and how you're working. I also just wanted to respond to the image that you showed me of tables, in that one of my kind of first important solo pieces, because the first three I made were, let's say, not as important, was also, I also worked with an installation setting. And these tables are actually from a kind of council building in Glasgow, and so is the chair. So there was the notion of kind of the sublimation of these objects, or kind of lifting them up to be kind of considered as art objects, although they're essentially quite abject. And actually this chair that you see in the picture, I brought with me from Glasgow, and it's normally the chair that I sit on, but it's not here right now in this space.
But did you always have this longing for like your own workspace, like a workspace that's not a dance studio or that's not an office, but something? Because I think that's what I had to learn, like even to understand that I need to do several things in this space, and it's actually not even so. Yeah, it's something you need to learn, like what is your practice? You want to write, you want to lie down and stretch, you want to hop about a bit, you want to draw, you want to... I mean, what I do a lot in a way, which is very simple, but I constantly put things on the wall and write things on the wall. So this is kind of like, it's like doing a notebook, but the notebook becomes the whole studio, so to speak. There you can see. But I don't know, I'd like to be more specific than that. I wonder how I could do that.
More specific in the sense of talking about the notebook, or in the sense of talking about the space?
Well, I think my a friend of mine, Alexander Scheller, who also is a visual artist and lives in Berlin, he once said that, and I'm haunted by this idea of unproductive productivity, and I think that's also a little bit what I sometimes long for, that I have unproductive productivity, that I just have also time where it's a bit like playing, where I research without thinking of a consequence. There's no actual causality yet because there's a deadline, or because there is something I need to achieve and fulfill. But actually, I can wander through. I can print out an image of, and I don't know, architectural structure, and I can print out an image of my mother, and I can put them side by side, and I can think about why am I putting them side by side, and what interests me in something highly structural and something more personal, maybe. I think that reminds me, I have done this before, like sometimes, like I have this is a very old sketchbook which also lies around in my studio. Now I can't see what I'm showing. There. And yeah, just the wheel in comparison to the figure. Oh, this actually reminds me of you a little bit. It's a Swiss artist. She creates this children mannequins, but they're just sort of dolls that lean and fall. And can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my book, it's kind of the combination of this wheel, this structure, this I don't know, physical manifestation of labor and of what humans can do and achieve, and then there's just this figure, this body that doesn't have a face. I don't know. That's what I like to do. Just juxtapose images.
I mean, I wanted to just respond to this idea of play, and this idea of like the non-productive body, because again, back to one of those early solos, I was again in Glasgow, and I was working in an abandoned factory. And this idea of an unproductive body was kind of also coming to me from this architectural context. And also in reading through Antoine Artaud, he talks about performance as this meaningless act with no goal. And recently, when I was making this piece I just made called Variations 1, my work looks much more abstract these days. I started off working with this notion of play, and I was reading something from the philosopher Giorgio Agamben, and he was talking about this notion of play as something that destroys time, and the idea of the calendar as something that creates time. So this notion of like ritual and repetition versus a kind of destruction of time. And I think this idea of time is also, for me, really pertinent. I mean, without even talking about having children and working, etc., it's also, there's something about this whole cycle of the 3-month production and this idea of, okay, I go into this studio with these people and there's this money involved. And sometimes I remember when I started working, there was years would go by where there was really nothing much being produced. And I believe that that was a very fertile time when no one was looking at it.
You actually feel like supported enough right now in order to produce what you want to produce? I haven't followed the past 2 years. We spoke a lot like 3-4 years ago, but now, because I remember that things were going also well or better, but generally you still get support from Scotland and from Germany and.
Yeah, I mean, since 2009, I was being supported by Dance For in England through like Paul Russ becoming interested in what I was doing. I also, for this piece, Variations 1, was supported by Hauptstadt Kulturfonds and by Arts Council of England. So I'm slowly becoming more part of a German context. But I mean, basically, I'm kind of in between contexts, in between countries, in between contexts. Sorry?
How did you end up in Berlin?
Because my brother, the painter, that's one of the paintings of my brother, Mark Sadler, who is also a writer for Frieze Art magazine. Basically, I went to the Sommer Academy in 2004 and met there with a number of German Berlin-based choreographers and felt quite excited about what they were talking about, and I didn't have that community in Scotland. I felt like a kind of crazy woman. So I thought that nobody really saw the work that I was doing or was that interested in it. So I decided that I would come to Berlin and try to, I don't know, somehow make contact or get my work shown. I didn't really know. It was a kind of a kamikaze expedition.
Because I remember, I think I met you first like after or before or around the time when I was performing at the Volksbühne in 2007. We met. No, it was earlier on. No, we did go. I think maybe we did see a show of Meg and everything. Or, I don't know. I can't remember next year. But did you see me in Volksbühne in 2007? I don't remember.
Yes, I actually met you when during the time you were working with Meg Stewart.
Yeah.
And we spent quite a lot of time walking around Berlin, and this was before I had a family, and it was another time. And this was the first time you'd collaborated with Meg. And actually, I wanted to ask you, it was one of the questions that I had, one of my final questions was, or the fifth question, was in what way collaboration, what is your work beyond your body, beyond yourself? Like, how does that sort of produce and affect your work now? Because I know the last pieces, I mean, I haven't seen this recent piece, but I would be interested to know what that collaboration means or how it has produced or affected your practice.
Yeah, I think I mean, with the second piece that Meg Stewart, Vladimir Miller, and I did, it's more a case of it was one of those lucky moments where the three of us started out researching simple ideas of video relay, drawing over video images, and Meg and I started exploring different kind of physicalities really, and it really fell into place quite easily because it was more of a side project and it was a bit like the afterbirth of Maybe Forever. So it was more like there was a desire to continue and do something, and yeah, it's one of those moments where a side work that you don't have maybe as your priority in your schedule for the first months and years becomes something very central to your body of work, and we still show it and have shown it a lot. And but in terms of collaboration, I don't have such a clear concept of my collaborative modes. I mean, what I recognize over the years is that I'm more and more interested in. I understand more and more that I need people. And I need really also the help and all the support I can get. And that once you get that, you bounce off each other and the work multiplies and gets to places where you cannot go on your own. And what I particularly like, or what's still fascinating with Meg, is like just being on stage with her. It's somehow, it feels like I'm there with my sister or my family, and I can read every single move, every single expression, and I can deal with it. And it goes very quick. It's like a dialogue, and we create the whole thing together. And sometimes in previous years or the years before, when it was more about me being the director of a show and being in it, if you're not careful, you establish a thing where you will always be the one who understands things slightly better, because you haven't opened up to other people's or your interpreters or your dancers' ideas of things, and you haven't joined or followed other people. And that's generally, anyway, a big thing in my life. I mean, in my artistic life, that now that I'm getting older, I'm much more interested in I try to follow other people and join their processes much more than ever before, actually.
Yeah, for me, I was just thinking about this image of this piece, I Not I, and about this whole business of collaboration or working with others. I have to say that I've had some negative experiences with artistic collaborators, and somehow it's an ongoing search for me to find the right people. I mean, also because I've been focusing very much on this directorial position, this kind of enforcing this choreographic vision onto dancers, but at the same time trying to find a way to work with the other, the dancer, and also, like I was just saying earlier on, I've encountered, I'm not always working with dancers in consecutive projects, so there's always new dancers coming in. And so I've, over the past couple of projects, tried to create a kind of toolbox for improvisation, which is some way of going between the dancer and between me, and somehow trying to open up a space where the dancer also takes a certain is taking more responsibility for the work itself. Because I feel like again, as time goes on, I also feel I need them to take a certain responsibility for the work that maybe I haven't felt in the past. But I still feel the need to direct. Because I'm really controlling. No, because
I understand. I still feel like I have not enough knowledge. Directing is hard for me sometimes, so I work the past years with one or two other people. The last stage work I made solo with Jack, I made with the visual artist Jack Hauser, who performs with me, but it's just the two of us on stage. One thing that comes up when I think of you, and maybe because we're similar age, I think, and everything, is this notion of, lately, sometimes I've been like worrying about like that my overly formal, because I have such a love for structure, for form, for constellations that create a resonance, really. Inherent structural properties of. When I teach, I sometimes speak to my students on this idea of the shadow object, like the imprint of what a good artwork leaves by the inherent structural properties. Like, then it goes beyond the visual. It goes beyond, you start to perceive the whole thing physically, or you as a embodied being perceives the work, and that has a certain resonance. So it's more than just what you see or the immediacy of enjoyment and everything. And sometimes, I don't know, like when I work with Meg, I'm more immediate, maybe also more spontaneous, and a lot of people in my life I feel are more spontaneous. So my question or my thought would be this whole relationship between, or sometimes my fear that I close things by over-formalizing it. And lately I'm much more interested in, when I'm on stage, like to really be available for the people who look at me, who are with me. And I've been questioning a lot whether I've actually been doing that at all till about 2-3 years ago. And it's become a very enjoyable thing, but it's really become like, as I do video installations nowadays, it's like, okay, if it's not video installation and I put myself in front of a live audience, how can I be with them? So, in a way, these are two questions or two thoughts. One is does the formalization sometimes objectify the thought or create such a strong thought object that it is distancing to the live event, and the other thing is maybe just like how do you what do you start? I don't know. Do you think about your audience? Do you think about the presence your performers have in terms of are we really giving something? Are we presenting an aesthetic object? Or how can something that's seemingly understood as a concept, a thought, an object still be tangible and opened up to? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things coming up. I mean, firstly, I mean, I think I've made the past two pieces I made were very formal and structuralist, in that I was interested in how this structure can communicate, or this certain language. And what was interesting is my older pieces were more funny, and people were always asking me, where is the humor in your work now, you know? And I am very much interested in humor, and I'm constantly the one joking the whole time. I mean, I'm hilarious. I love laughing, and actually I'm now hoping this year to finish. I started a half finished piece for children called "We Are the Monsters,"
Okay.
and it's hilarious, and I really enjoy, and I let myself really be kind of extravagant with the humor in there, you know. But on the other hand, I suppose I'm really trying to get to grips with this notion of choreography, so as opposed to performance, although of course, if you know what I mean, which is of course part of choreography is the performance, the performer. And for example, in some of I think that a lot of the time in my works, I have been to a certain extent reifying the performers, so presenting them as objects. But one of the things that I think is an indestructible kind of, phenomena is the presence of the performer. In that, I'm just looking here at a picture of Maxwell, and I think that every time I see Maxwell in a piece, it's like I just really enjoy watching Maxwell doing that thing. He never stops being Maxwell for me, I mean, maybe the most extreme experience I had of a dancer really with this, almost this transparent subjectivity, which you feel like the smallest gesture he makes is so full of intention, was this Turkish dancer, Kerem Khelabek, who works quite a lot with Christian Rizzo and Boris Charmatz in France, etc. So also maybe I'm not sure if that's also connected to a certain notion of dance, that's somehow kind of reverse of what I'm doing. But I think for me, the kind of the after effect, or the effect for the audience is I'm not so interested in this like representational aspect. It's like we're trying to get behind the representation. So I've just frozen on my screen. I don't know if you've seen it. It's more this idea of perception. So maybe in this last piece, the audience were saying they thought about the piece the next day, or they remembered something after the piece, and I was interested in this kind of temporal drag of reception. I don't know. You're completely gone now, and
I can still hear you, but your image is doing funny things. It's giving great lines in between, so it's kind of abstract art, but maybe it's my reception or yours.
Yeah,
can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but it's like basically it's a pink stripy picture.
Yeah, I have a mixture of a repetitive.
Screens are going really like, I don't know, it's just like a psychedelic abstract video installation now. I don't know if we should stop or.
It looks really crazy, a mixture of Douglas Gordon with some purple stripes in between. It's quite good. This could be a new work.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maxwell, people. Oh, I'm lost now.
Well, I could start. I mean, I have a question here because I know also from some of the images you've shown me this work with Jack Hauser. I was curious about the first question that you have sent me, which is what is the sense of how you want your works to manifest right now? Performances, installations, object.
Yeah.
And I suppose I've actually, even my email now is completely, I can't even see the text anymore, but I remembered there was something about, you were also talking about theatre, you know, a couple of questions down, and I wondered, yeah, has this move kind of out of theatre been about this collaboration with Jack, or is it also coming from yourself and from a desire to somehow move into another context or to make other kinds of products, like without dance, let's say? So this was one of the questions, in fact the first question that you sent me, and it's relating also to this notion of theatricality, or let's say the writing that unfolds in the now of the performance. So something we just spoke about in relation to this, I was talking about temporal drag, the notion of perception or the unconscious experience for the viewer, rather than just, okay, it was a story and I was moved, etc. So the question that you have sent me is, what is the sense of how you want your works to manifest right now? Performances, installations, object. And my question was, what is the desire to go, let's say, beyond the screen of the theatre, or this frontality, or even the context, to move into the production of visual art, let's say objects or installations, where, you know, the theatre is no longer the necessary context, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's... I've been watching too much Russell Brand. I'm like so nervous, like him. But I think it's different reasons. Partly it's feeling. It started with doing the video installation Dead Reckoning, where people can actually walk around an object, and so therefore an audience member, a spectator, can decide for herself whether she or he wants to view the object from a certain side, how much they attend to the work, and I felt a sort of great liberty in not forcing people anymore to sit through one of my shows. But obviously that's not maybe a good enough reason, but it is partly that. And what I also enjoy about going into, or why I like to think of a working process nowadays more and more, where things could manifest in different media, is because sometimes it's maybe just one idea, and that's a 10-minute video film, or that's a piece of writing, and sometimes it's it's about the moment of the stage moment, which I try to take more care of nowadays. But I think what has maybe been an issue for me, or problem, is that the pressure to make good work, the pressure to make the novel, the pressure to create a piece that has, dramaturgically speaking, many different facets and sections, and is fully entertaining and critical and everything at the same time, was just too much in a way. And I think I've partly managed that, managed that the past years, but sometimes I think it's better for me to just focus on one section, one idea, and I think the visual arts allow for that a little bit more, because you can decide, oh no, this is just a photograph, this is just an image, and then you start thinking, oh, where's that image coming from? Am I the one who shot it? Am I the one who collected it? What is the culture of images nowadays in society? So am I just a teenager who picks something on the internet, or do I pick something off the internet and I transform it? Then, do I blow it up? I make it big. Where do I put it in the space? I just really like also curating spaces. So I also like putting an image on the wall and deciding, you know, how does it relate? It's always, at the end of the day, all my work, it's a bit more like musical writing. It's a constellation of events, and that constellation does the talking more than just the now. And that's what I like about, you know, I'm still at the beginning of it, although I have done several works now, but learning to work with video, to work with photography, to work with writing and with text, it's one thing, and sometimes that can become bigger and smaller, but in general, that's what I feel. And I think because the dance world, I've lived now 15 years in the dance world, and I've been around the world, and it's my life, it's my community, the international community, but I'm not so curious anymore or interested to satisfy certain programmers or people, and my work has become what it is. I've reached a certain level, certain things I didn't achieve, certain things I did. Some people know, some people don't, and that's in a way, I don't know. I think this urge of pushing for the great stage work with the great group stage work, so to speak, where I had that very much when I was younger, and then now I don't have that anymore because I feel that it's more varied than that, and my language spreads. I think it's been a big issue for me also because I live a little bit with this thing called, I call it a blessing and a curse sometimes, that I've, from very early on, focused on a certain movement language that has also been attributed to my work. So if an aesthetic, and a strong aesthetic, is being attributed to your work, it's not so easy to actually distance yourself from it and don't believe the discourse, the talk, the hype, the whatever, and also the problems. Like, because as much as I have the hype, I also have this constant, it's impenetrable, it's too difficult, it's too heavy, whatever. It's nice to manifest myself in different media and not only with the body, because sometimes it's still my prime, it's still what I like doing, and I get even better at it, but I also, I don't know, I'm interested that it becomes a situation where how I live and how it is my practice and how I'm happy with it is the priority, and then the secondary on a secondary level, it's and I'm never there actually, but anyway, that's how the concept. Once the practice is established, what comes out of that practice? Is it us talking now? Is it the video work? We don't know. This might be the hit. This might go on the British Council touring exhibition. And that's in a way what I also like about video and photography. It's just, that's the other thing, of course, it's just there. And then it's there, and you have to take care of it, and you have to really learn what it is. But it's there. I don't know. That's what I also like about it. Sorry, I went in circles, but rather than thinking I have to make a new piece, maybe we should finish off our talk on the level, where we're all going, and when us getting older and wanting to live in dance, but also going further. And I, for example, decided to take some time off next year because I didn't want that pressure of making work for my funding body, which I don't, but somehow that's been an issue. I want to feel like a good artist without making work for a couple of years, maybe. Making big works, but maybe joining whatever comes my way.
Yeah, I just also, maybe to finish, but just to kind of come back on a couple of things you said. There was something interesting to me about this notion of time again within this business of the visual art production, this idea of brevity. And I think this is something that's also struck me over the years. And actually in this piece, Variations 1, one of the things I try to do is make what I would kind of call a structure of fragments. So the meaning of the piece is kind of in the in-between spaces. So it's still a dance piece, but it's like the meaning is not like one core. So it's like decentralized. And when I was thinking about seeing your tables and the videos, it's like you're spreading the meaning out, or like the meaning can be between things, it's not this like dance experience. And I understand what you mean with this like pressure of the new and the pressure of the market. I think what I've realized over the years is that I am working for myself, which is, I think, because I've realized, within the conditions of like within the luck that I've had, or the places etc. It's afforded me certain opportunities, and I know that I'm still very, I still primarily consider myself a choreographer, and one of the reasons I was going to come back to you regarding this visual arts question is that for me it's also a question of métier. Like seeing, there's a very good essay by Jeff Wall where he talks about performance in métier. And maybe for me, I never really stepped dramatically out of dance because of this notion of métier, like not having a métier in visual arts. Also, again, because of growing up with visual arts, with painting, more these like canonical forms of visual art. I mean, I do have a drawing practice, but it's, again, these drawings are more, again, related to more like I'm drawing a body as a series of lines. I was also quite interested to find the drawings of Trisha Brown. I also was looking a lot at them because I realised that drawing, this whole business of the drawing was very close to somehow the practice of moving or thinking. Let's see. But in terms of coming back to where we are now, I mean, it could go on, I could speak a lot longer, but anyway, I would like to see these pieces now. I'm very curious to see your other works, not for stage. It's just that for me now, I've really tried, I've thrown myself at the wall with making group pieces, and I have taken on, the last piece had 7 people involved, and it's just it was just personally a very tough time, and I realized that I think over the years I've had this dream of making group works, or I felt that it was about the structure, about choreography as the relation between things. But actually now I start to think a bit more about going on to a smaller scale and making the work more personal. And even, I'm curious about foreign travel, like going to Japan, having a sort of other cultural experience, if that's at all possible in this globalized world. So I realized I have to make the work also suit more my life. I mean, I am a mother. I can't just, at a drop of a hat, every 5 minutes, go here, there, and everywhere. And I don't want the endless residency lifestyle, So yeah, maybe just to feel more in control of it. And for sure, I would love for more things to come from the outside, but I'm not in control of that. So, so yeah, just to be happy really with the work that I'm making in myself, and not to feel this constant dissatisfaction. I mean, there is always a dissatisfaction, but yeah, just to have the right constellation of people and things and time, and yeah, just to improve the experience personally, and also for, I don't know, all the people that are involved. So
I have the feeling your computer is getting hot again.
Yeah, my computer is an old MacBook, and it's not so happy with long term use.
That's okay. I think it's maybe one last thought from my side is showing something personal and maybe deep, which sometimes can be heavy, in the black box. It takes a lot of, the spectators are asked to carry these things with you. And I realized that in Brussels a week ago when I was performing 2 weeks ago, I felt for the first time, no, actually it's not so difficult what I do, it's just you make it difficult as well. You're not helping me. Although as much as I feel like I need to be available and I need to help, it's very difficult, and that's I think why the white cube or a site sometimes makes it a bit more, I don't know, yeah, more light, more fluid maybe to show my work. And I'm also, that's why my Skype address is called Grey Space Grauraum, because I'm fascinated with this in-between, and that's what the exhibition was also called, and everything is, yeah, grey is still a big theme.
Yeah, I mean, just last thing, I also have a kind of, I feel sometimes I'm waging a war against the black box, or rather this like fictional space and this eternal centre that there is. You know, I recently performed in Nottingham, and I felt that the space was basically a centre, you know, and we had to rip out the wings to try to get to the walls. And it's not necessarily about being not inside the theatres, it's also a question of the theatres that exist and how to work with them as a space and not as a stage. But this is this is an ongoing work.
Yeah, and it's a condition also of spectators not just switching on once the movie starts, once the performance starts, then giving it the, you know, is it a good aesthetic object, do I like it or not? Something. But anyway, I think we're done.
Daughter.
I will